Oh, hot doggy, we're back. Today on Coffee Break Tennis, everyone who's an expert says Novak Djokovic is going to win everything and take over everything, and Roger Federer, maybe even Rafa Nadal, are toast. So we'll talk about that. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis, the fastest growing tennis talk show in the world. Some would say in the universe. I'm your host, Matt Bradshaw, who has more fun hosting this tennis talk show than Rafa Nadal has playing short guys with one-handed backhands on clay. Our co-host, Mr. Goat, who usually sits in his goat boat tuffet right there, he's not here today because he's on vacation in some place called Ibiza, something like that. All right, so we've been inundated with a bunch of articles in the news. I only printed one. This one, Hinman, they're quoting Tim Hinman. There's one with Patrick Mortoglu. There's another one, I didn't even bother reading it, with John McEnroe, who says Federer's the greatest, and he says Federer's looking old and tired and is all done. You never know what he's going to say about Roger Federer. This one kind of gives you the feel of all of them. By the way, my friends, before I forget, Cincinnati is coming very, very soon. We've only got about, 3 weeks now? There are only 2 spots left at the Tennis Masters Clinic with me and Peter Freeman, the tennis teaching genius from Crunch Time Coaching. I tell you, there is no more fun in the whole year for me than our clinic in Cincinnati. It's at the club at Harper's Point. Beautiful indoor tennis courts. If you've never played on an indoor court, it's wonderful. And if you want to get into Tennis Masters Clinic with me and Pete, you got to do it pretty soon, probably today. Only 2 spots left. If you want to, you sign up through Coffee Break Tennis. You have the option to automatically be drafted. I hope you're good. Drafted onto my team. We have won 2 years in a row. We are going for the three-peat to win the Harper's Cup this year. I will fight to the death to make sure I don't let Pete win the Harper's Cup or deny me the three-peat. So click down below. I promise you, it is the most fun thing ever. I mean, if I do something that's more fun, I'll let you know, but I haven't yet. Headline from SkySports.com. Tim Hinman says Novak Djokovic can be as successful as Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal. Okay. I mean, isn't he already kind of in that same? I mean, they're the big three. Murray's the big four because he's been in a ton of finals, but only won a few. Tim Hinman thinks Wimbledon champion Novak Djokovic has shown he's capable of winning as many Grand Slams as Federer and Nadal. Now, that's a little different. As many. That's not the same as can be as successful. Well, I guess it is. But we think of can be as successful as like, yeah, he's had a great career. He's won double-digit slams, but we don't think he's going to be in the GOAT discussion with 20 or something like that number at the end. But you know what? Sure, it's possible. He's got 13. He's in his early 30s. Of course he can win some more majors. But most of these articles, they mostly put that in, and then the quote suggests it, but doesn't just outright say it. So look at how they do this here. Tim Hinman says Novak Djokovic has shown he's got what it takes to be as successful as Roger and Rafa. Djokovic is 4th when it comes to most singles titles, blah, 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 blah. Djokovic beat Nadal in the semifinals at Wimbledon, and Hinman believes the Serb can catch them. He's got it. Now, this is the quote. So Tim Hinman isn't quoted saying the Serb can catch Rafa and Roger. He's quoted as saying he's got a chance. So he was asked if Djoker can. He didn't say he can, he said he's got a chance. It's a little different, but it is suggestive. Djoker's got a chance. He had a difficult 2 years, a few issues on and off the court. He had elbow surgery earlier this year. Looked like he was struggling with the confidence in his game, but the last 3 months, right direction. Looked good at Queen's Club, match point over Cilic. We remember all this stuff. Went through Wimbledon, got better and better. Good win over Kyle Edmund. The rest is history, blah, 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 blah. His match against Rafa, the semifinal. One of the best matches I've commentated on ever. By the time he got to the final, clear favorite against Kevin Anderson. So, lots of signs in the tennis media pointing to Djoker's back and Roger and Rafa. They assume Rafa will keep winning the French. Are going to have a hard time beating Djoker anywhere else. So, we're going to keep today's video pretty brief. I would like everyone to comment below. What do you think about this? I have to admit, I'm watching Wimbledon this year. And, you know, we got a little bit fooled because it was so hot, especially like in the first week of Wimbledon, the court was playing faster than it really was. So we didn't get to see that Wimbledon, in fact, slowed down their courts again. I remember the numbers showing us that 2016 Wimbledon, slower 2017, Federer still won. This year, from what we can tell, even slower. From what we've heard, John Isner said it himself. He said, I think I have a better chance this year because it's playing a little slower, so it's a little easier for him to get in position and get a good crack at the ball. Isner said it. That was the press conference after Isner beat Raonic in the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. So Isner had played 5 matches here at Wimbledon, different courts. He knows that the court is definitely slower. There's no hiding it. So I had to wonder myself, with the Wimbledon grass getting slower every year, how the heck is Roger going to beat Novak Djokovic when he can return so well? I mean, it's unheard of if you go back in history. Just go back to the 90s. I can't imagine anyone was winning close to 50% of service games, return games, I mean. Novak Djokovic, what was I don't remember it now, but it was in the high, it was 40-something percent. Djokovic was winning over 40% of the return games he played at Wimbledon. That's crazy for grass. That right there told me, you know what? We might not see Roger Federer beat someone like Novak Djokovic at Wimbledon when he's playing that well. Anyone who can return like that. Because these surfaces that benefit Roger Federer's 1-2 punch, he even said it, and when he lost Kevin Anderson, Roger said the 1-2 punch wasn't there today. I don't know why. Maybe it was the breeze, a little court 1 lingo there. So comment below, what do you feel? I really feel like it might be pretty tough if they keep slowing down Wimbledon for Roger to win another Wimbledon. I'm always going to give him a chance unless, we go a few years in the future and he's clearly just not performing anywhere near what his body used to be able to because of age. Sure, that could happen, but the way Roger's looked most of this year, I know a lot of people think he's not as good this year as last year. We're going to look at some stats from last year versus this year, hardcourt only. We're just looking at hardcourt numbers now because there's one big question. Who can win the U.S. Open? And the other big question is, how slow are the U.S. hardcourts going to play? So if Djokovic is really going to dominate everything now and win everything, he's going to win the U.S. Open and the Australian Open and Wimbledon and maybe even some French Opens. If he really is fully back and he's going to be Djokovic from 2015, when remember he was in all 4 finals, won 3 of them, almost won the calendar year Grand Slam, except for Stanislaw, the Manislaw Wawrinka stopped him at the French Open, shock of the year. Let's look at some of the numbers from hardcourt since it's all about the U.S. Open. The big question is, who's going to win the U.S. Open? The other big question is, how fast will the U.S. Open play? I wouldn't be surprised to see Roger beat Djokovic at Cincinnati with a very solid, maybe even easy win, and then lose to him at the U.S. Open when the court surface is playing a lot slower. That wouldn't shock me. So let's look. Djokovic, 2015, second serve. These numbers are so important. I can illustrate to you very quickly. Look at how, if you are doing well in the second serve percentage 1, return games 1, and serve games 1, if you're doing well, if you're top 10, I can only fit 8 on the screen. So we're going to go top 8 on these 3 categories. You're either going to be in finals or winning hardcourt majors that year. In 2015, Novak Djokovic was on top with a 59. Remember, he beat Roger in that U.S. Open final. Roger's right there with 56. Rafa didn't have a very good 2015, but he still made this list. He's not on any of the other lists 2015, though. 2015, return games 1. Very important. And this is a big number here. Djokovic is at 36%. Remember, at Wimbledon, it was so slow that he was winning like over 40%. Almost half of the games he returned. That's insane. That tells me right there, Wimbledon. Like, if you ever want to know how slow is a court playing, just look at the best returners. How high can they get that win return game percentage? That'll tell you if it's a slow surface. 2015 return games on hardcourt 1. Novak on top again. Roger there too. Remember, finalist at the U.S. Open. Bageled Djokovic at Cincinnati that year. Federer had a good hardcourt season too. Although he did lose to Andreas Seppi in the 3rd round of the Aussie Open. But other than that, good hardcourt results for Federer in 2015. Service games 1, 2015, hardcourts. Federer number 4 with almost 92% win percentage. Outstanding. Djokovic, this is his lower number because he doesn't have as good of a first serve. 88%. Still on the list. Djokovic wins Australian Open and U.S. Open in 2015, and he is top 8 in all 3 of these crucial categories. Rafa, not a very good 2015, and he was only tops on 1 of them. Let's look at 2017. Service games 1, Roger, 90. Rafa, 89. Return games 1, Roger, 8, but still on the list. 26.54. Rafa, 28.14, number 5. And Second serve points in 2017 on hard courts, 1. Nadal, over 60%. Roger, almost 59%. So clearly, those dudes won the U.S. Open and Australian Open 2017, Roger and Rafa. They're tops on these lists. You can see that this is a great indicator. So let's look at 2018. Now, I know there's two things I get from this. One is, why is Djokovic's number in 2015 return games won so high? 36%, right? 36.58. Let's round it to 37. And Roger's right there with 30. It's pretty high, too. 2017, 31 is the highest of anyone. So in 2015, 3 guys are over 32% win on return. Federer, Gil Simon, Novak Djokovic. Andy Murray's right there. Even Roger did great on return. David Goffin, guys that we think of as good returners. 2017, we got Schwartzman, we got Roberto Batista Agut, again, good Demir, Zoomer, Hyun Chung. But 31 is pretty far from 36, 37 when it rounds up. And again, 3 guys hit 32. You could round up Murray to 32 with 31.88. And only 1 guy rounds up to 32 when you had 4 doing it the year before, 2 years before. In 2018, even lower. The highest this year is Andrei Rublev, Mr. Rubles, with 30.95. Rounds up to 31. No one's coming close to that 37 that Djokovic rounded up to in 2015. Now, Roger's on this list, but look at him. He's got a 27%. In 2017, he had a 26.54, and in 2015, he had 30%. But of course, 2017, 2018, better hardcourt years for Roger because he's winning the Australian Open in both of these years. In 2017, he won a ton of stuff. All I wondered from this is this some kind of indicator that it's harder to win return games on hard courts, which would mean, are the hard courts getting faster on average? I don't have enough data right here to come to a conclusion. I'm just very curious seeing these numbers. So comment below if you have an opinion on that or know more about that. So let's look at the 2018 numbers. Of course, Djokovic had a bad start to the hard court season 28. We know what happened to Djokovic this year on hard courts. Wasn't ready, still had the elbow issues, whatever the reason may be. So this is not going to be an indicator of why these guys will all be better than Djokovic at the U.S. Open. But this may be an indicator of what we can expect from other people not named Djokovic. Like, who else can be a contender? And let's look at the numbers for 2018. Return games won. Roger is on that list at the bottom here, 8. Rublev, Coric, Hyun Chung, Gasquet, Ferrer. Don't see Rafa there. Is that a sign that maybe Rafa... Now remember, Aussie Open a lot faster than U.S. Open, so things get easier, especially in this stat, return games won. Service games won in 2018. Federer way on top with 93, even 3% better than last year. That's an indicator that Roger could do very well at the U.S. Open. Juan Martín del Potro is on this list. Service games won. Cilic, Query, Dominic Thiem, John Isner, Kevin Anderson, all guys, Karen Khachanov, however you say his name. All these guys could do very well, maybe. And second serve points won 2018 on hard courts. Roger Federer, way above, on the top, 4%, more than 4% higher than Kevin Anderson in second place. So which players are on all 3 of these lists in 2018? I just looked over it a few times to double check, but only Roger Federer. Comment below, does it matter? Does it mean anything? We're all wondering what's going to happen at the U.S. Open. As we've just seen, it worked in 2017, 2015. I believe it does in 2016 too. Maybe next show I'll take a look at some more years to see if this really happens like all the time. But it shows you that in the past few years, U.S. Open and Australian Open champions appear on all 3 of these lists on their average for the entire year. This year, we've only had 1 hardcourt major. Federer won it. We have 1 left. Only 1 person is on all 3 of these lists. It's Roger Federer. Of course, Djokovic would probably be on this list if he was playing the way he just played this Wimbledon. Maybe he'd be higher than Roger, but Roger's pretty high up on these 3 lists. Rafa's not there. Rafa hasn't hardly played any hard courts this year, so he can easily get on this list. This will be a thing that we need to pay attention to during the hardcourt summer series. We'll take a look at these numbers as we go into the U.S. Open. I think it might tell us a lot about what we can expect. And of course, the biggest question of all, how slow is that U.S. Open going to play? Also, comment below if you want to see some more of this, if you want me to really dig through and look at the stats from all the different years to see how often this holds up. think it'd be pretty interesting to take a look at. Maybe we can do that this week. We'll probably do 2 videos this week. I haven't figured that out yet, but we will be seeing you very soon. We definitely won't take another week off to mourn the loss of Roger Federer at Wimbledon.